And we'll start. Welcome, everybody. My name is Mina Jane. I'm the director of the Ashland Public Library in Massachusetts, and I am always happy to be here with Leelynn Brady at Sometimes Leelynn Reads. She's a bookstagrammer, talking about diverse books and recommendations. They're always really wonderful. Every time she sends me her list, I'm like, can't wait. So before we get started, just really quickly, so I want to say thanks to the Friends of the Ashland Public Library for supporting all of our programs and to Leelynn for letting us share this program with other libraries, local libraries, because, obviously I say this every month, when libraries work together, we make magic. And if you have questions or thoughts that you would like to express, feel free to use the chat. And if it's a question, I will definitely let Leelynn know there's a question for her. If it's you just chatting and making recommendations of what you're reading, feel free to do that in the chat. I will send out a list of everything Leelynn is recommending, so don't feel like you have to write it down furiously. Just pay attention. We'll have a really good time. So Leelynn, thank you again for being here. This is one of my favorite things to do.
Thank you for always having me. It's my favorite thing to look forward to every month. But yes, thank you for reminding me. I am going to crowdsource a little bit. So just remind me because sometimes I get in my mind. But I'm going to start off with a little romance. And it's That Time I Got Drunk and Saved a Demon by Kimberly Lemming. So I'm gonna do a little bit more of a vibes check for us instead of going really deep into some of the details. I am still gonna talk about like how it made me feel. But the main character in this one, Sin, short for Cinnamon, she somehow gets involved with this guy who's a demon, and she saves him from this curse that he was on. And then he's like, you know what? I need you to help me break the curse that is on all these other demons in this fantasy world. And she's really like she has like pink hair. That was like the most like out of, spontaneous thing she's ever done. And she's like, I'm not meant to be noticed or stand out. So going on that adventure is a lot for her, but I think she really enjoys it. And they just have a bunch of a great cast of characters. Again, she's plus size, and I just love that representation. But yeah, so my question for you is, what do you think about when you see long titles like this? Is that something that makes you want to read it or makes you like not want to read it? I'm curious. Because at first I was like, that seems like a long title, but it also was a very funny title.
So I love Kimberly Lemming. I think we've talked about her before. She is hilarious, first of
Yes.
all, and she has these. Her character Cinnamon is so funny. Like from the
Yes.
very first page, you just are laughing. I'm gonna say like I didn't love the long titles. I thought that it wasn't off-putting, but it was just kind of like, what's this? Like how when you see a movie trailer and you're like, oh, they just told me the whole movie. I was like, all
Yeah.
right, that was all in there. So I don't know. I'm a more of a I don't think about the title as much as I think about the cover.
Cover. Yeah, that's true. But for me, it was the way that the Mead Mishap series is. It's like, oh, you know that one time I got drunk and saved a demon? It's like, no, what's that about? Here's the book. Like, so I get why the title is like that. It does make me like be like, oh yeah, what tell me about that time you got drunk and saved a demon. But I guess it depends on what the title is for me also. That helps me to pick up a book. And then of course the cover.
Mhm. Well, I think it's also a sign of Kimberly Lemming. She is just different, like
Yes.
she's not going to do what everybody else is doing. And I love that about her. So I think, I don't care I don't care what the title of the cover is. I will
Yeah,
read it. Right. I'm reading the one right
exactly.
now, her most recent one. And it's a little bit of a slog for me because it's sort of like Aliens, but,
Okay.
but it's got the humor, which just draws me in.
I was gonna ask you about that because she went from like fantasy, almost like medieval fantasy, to sci-fi alien type. So, okay, I'll keep that in mind because I did want to read that one too.
You should, and we'll talk about it because it's definitely different. It has her signature, like I said, humor
Yeah.
and world building and characters, but the switch was a little bit difficult for me.
Okay. I'll let you know. So I'm
Okay.
gonna go into some YA thriller. It's called Ace of Spades, and it is by Farida Abike Iyemide. And I hope I said that correctly. But this one, we compare it to Gossip Girls versus Get Out. So Gossip Girls, of course, are in a very ritzy private school. And then our two main black characters are the only two black characters at this school. And that is a plot point for this because this year in their senior year, they start to get targeted by an online presence called Ace of Spades. And so that's like the Gossip Girl part. And the Get Out part is really like, what is all this violence towards these two people? Is it racially driven? Is it personality driven? How are they finding all this information about these two people? And it's Devon Richards, and then Chiamaka Adebayo. So you have these two characters that don't really spend time with each other either, but are now forced to have to interact with each other because they are seeing that they are the only two people that are truly getting targeted by this online bully. And the conspiracy behind it is also just, I read it last month and I was like, oh my God. Like, I was just like, I can see why it's like Get Out and Gossip Girl. And even the twist that I saw was wild. But this book makes me wish that I went to like a boarding school, except for the bullying part. But like, have you ever wanted to go to a boarding school? Or like, yeah, okay. So it's just me.
No, um I think I'd be afraid to. Like I'd be afraid like I won't make any friends. I mean, this is very much like any of, these things where like what if you don't make any friends? What if somebody's mean to
Yeah.
you? What if you're homesick? What if you don't like the food? So, um it's probably a good thing to do to just get out there and like jump in feet first. But like you also hear all these stories about parents sending their kids to boarding school because they don't like them. So I hope
Yeah.
my parents liked me enough to keep me around.
I think my mom loved me so much I didn't get to dorm at college. So no, just that's a little joke from my mom. So I didn't get the boarding experience at all. But
Oh,
anyway.
I don't know. The dorm experience is a good one, but yeah, the boarding school,
Yeah.
I'm not sure. If anybody in the audience wants to chime in about how they would feel about it, feel free to. And also, what you're reading is diverse or interesting or different, feel free to.
Yes, please.
So
Yes,
yeah,
please.
what's up next?
Okay. And Break the Pretty Kings by Lena Jiang. This is the first book in a duology. It's based on Korean mythology. The main character, oh, sorry. Mire, she in this kingdom, or that's actually a queendom, so it's a matriarchy, and she is supposed to take over the queendom for her mom because her mom kind of goes through a psychotic break, but it's a magical psychotic break because it's attached to one of the individuals in the past that has put like a curse on their family. So Mire finds out that she has the power to travel through time and she can go in different directions, but she can't really control where she goes. So this journey is for her to figure out how does she change what the future is supposed to hold? How does she make sure that her queendom survives this bad entity that has been haunting them for many, many years? And also, how does she save her brother, one of her brothers that was kidnapped by this entity? So it's a duology. I read this one I think last month, and the ending, sorry, the ending was just like, oh my God. And the funny thing too is that they have three warriors where they have different powers. And if you've watched K-pop Demon Hunters, it kind of reminded me of that. I read this one before I watched K-pop Demon Hunters, but also with them being very much based in Korean mythology, and they were called like the three I think the three deceitful queens or something like that. So that was interesting, and they do play a role in this, at least some part, but you might know one of the queens already while you read it. So that's really cool.
Well, now I'm intrigued.
Yeah. Yeah, it definitely gives K-pop Demon like the very first Hunters, that kind of era. So almost like Joseon era.
Mhm.
Okay. Next one is Tangle Roots by Kalila Williams. This one is more contemporary, actually, but also does have some historical fiction involved in it. As you can see, the main character here, wow, I'm so bad. Noni. Main character Noni, she's biracial. As you can see, she's very, very light-skinned, black woman, and she has to learn about her own prejudices as well when she is forced to not go to the major college that she wants to and instead move to um, almost like a rural town in Virginia with her mom to take over Tangleroot Mansion, where they thought their family had a big part of it. It's like a plantation. So she learns more about her history. She learns more about herself, her prejudices as well, and also deals with again, is she enough? Is she not enough? This is my recurring theme, I know. I need to talk with my therapist about that. But, it's interesting because it does talk about like the history of slavery and enslaved individuals from Africa. And it's like, what what is taken away from them and how do we find out that information? And how does it come out when you're living in a place that does not want you to know about it.
Mhm.
So she fights that fight too, as well as just internal battles with herself and even like her heritage. She doesn't know like who her dad really is, or she has a stepdad, but is that really her dad? And just a lot of identity things as well. I have not read that one. Is a War Song, but I need to read that one.
I read her first one and just loved her. I actually interviewed her for a virtual program, and she's just delightful. I wanted to ask about one of the first things you said about that book was that she's mixed race. So
Mhm.
I'm gonna guess black and white.
Yes.
Um, so does that play into the storytelling at all? Um,
Yes, actually, it does, especially later on, and I can't say why, but it does in a way that you almost don't expect because it goes back into the history of this town in Virginia as well.
oh, all right, cool. That sounds
Yeah.
really interesting. I love it, and it's current. You said like
Yes, it
relevant.
takes place like as if it was like this year or last year, so very current.
Mhm. Okay. And is it for young adults or is it for adults?
Young adult, definitely young adult. But I mean, as adults, we can still read it, but it is geared towards young adults.
I don't want to say I prefer young adult books, but I find them really accessible as an adult, like very much,
Yeah.
like I don't know if it's maybe somebody in the audience can talk about it a little bit too in the
Yeah.
chat, is that the language is a little bit easier, the conflicts are something that you recognize, I think they're just really easy for adults to read.
Yeah, and I know we talked about this a little bit last time too, but they really take hard topics and put it, like you said, in an accessible way for you to digest it and see how it makes sense from different perspectives. And I
Mhm.
feel like it takes you away a little bit from your adult life if you're looking at young adults or teenagers trying to go through these things and you kind of like feel for them a little, like, oh, I remember when I was a teenager, blah, blah, blah. But then like you're like, oh, wow, I didn't think about this as a teenager. So I don't know. That's how I see it.
Yeah. And I think like we all went through it, right? So like we can some parts of it are going to be relevant to all of us, each of us, I
Yeah.
should say. And you know, maybe they'll affect the way we think now, but sometimes books that are written for adults are hard, they're heavy and so I go back and forth.
Yeah. A poll for the audience. Which do you prefer, young adult, adult, or middle grade? You can type it if you want, because I'm curious. And then I'll go along. So this one is a nonfiction book, Laziness Does Not Exist by Dr. Devin Price. I read this through one of my online book clubs on Instagram, and this really talks about the the belief that if you're lazy or like you don't have the energy to do something, that means you're lazy. So, and also comparing your worth to your productivity. So I listened to this and I don't remember everything exactly, but I feel like I want to buy it because whenever I feel like, oh, I'm being lazy, maybe I should go back and be like, hey, what are some things that I can do to make sure that I get out of the mindset that it's not me being lazy. It could be me being burnt out. It could be me needing to readjust what I'm doing so that I'm actually making progress. So I don't normally read nonfiction, but this one I actually really liked. And to me, it also like makes me think about some of the chronic illnesses I have with my disabilities and stuff, and where just be really tired. And it's like, oh, you're being lazy. No, my body is trying to heal because I'm being affected by my disabilities. So that
Mhm.
was a good reminder for me.
Yeah, I think so too. And we're getting some good answers about the mix of YA and adult. No middle grade though.
Okay,
Um,
I thought I saw one middle grade, but maybe.
oh, maybe we did. Nope. Adult, young adult. YA in adult, love is it? Nope. Oh yeah, yeah. Jennifer says
Okay,
YA in middle school. Um, I am curious about that because you have recommended middle grade books here, and
I have.
what is the appeal to you as an adult for reading a middle grade book?
For me, it's the accessibility as well, but it even makes it more accessible is how I feel. And also, I don't know if I had such a really good middle grade experience now that I think about it. Sometimes I did, sometimes I didn't, but just that coming of age before you get into high school, before you're kind of thinking about um love or like, romantic relationships and stuff, you're focusing on a lot of interpersonal friendship types of relationships. And I noticed that I gravitate a lot towards middle grade fantasy. So there's always that element of how am I saving the world today? And I think I like that too, because it shows that at any age, you can save the world. You don't have to be a capable adult. You don't have to be a new teenager. You can be like 12 or 13 years old trying to figure out how to save the world.
Mhm.
So, yeah.
That's true. I mean, you're not even save the world, but like, yeah, you're right about the relationships. Very different. And everybody says middle school is miserable, but like the teachers that actually want to teach in middle school love it so much because they're figuring things out with the kids.
Yeah.
Um, I have a question here about your nonfiction book. I wonder
hmm
how procrastination fits in with the discussion about laziness, which is such a good question because I am a master procrastinator.
So there's actually a section here. It's on procrastinators. So, a lot of times they talked about like fighting depression that can lead to procrastination. That's a full-time job. One of the quotes that stands out here says, procrastination is a complex beast, one that's often caused by caring a whole lot and wanting to do well. And I feel like that speaks a lot to me as a procrastinator and a perfectionist.
hmm Yeah. I think we just had this conversation in a town meeting the other day about procrastination and how we do that when we're overwhelmed.
Yes.
We have so much to do or so much on our minds that we can't do any of it.
Yeah,
So that happens to me. Like I'll be like, I have so much to do, but I'm gonna go read a book.
exactly. Or like, I just don't want to touch it right now. I don't have the headspace to.
Right, exactly. But
I
good
hope that
question.
answered your question. Okay, this one is Chicano Frankenstein by Daniel A. Olivas. This one was so interesting because not only is it a modern retelling of Frankenstein, but I also felt like it was a really good commentary on the immigration situation in the US and also just the president reminded me of somebody that we know. And um, basically, Stitchers is the slur that they call reanimated individuals that you can use their bodies or whatnot if for some reason your body is not completely, healthy. So stitchers get mistreated and they're like, they're not fully human. They shouldn't have rights and stuff like that. So that that commentary on how they're quote unquote second class citizens because they're dead, but they are now alive was a very prominent one. And the main character, who we don't have his name, is just so happens to be a Stitcher. So I don't remember what the actual word is, but a reanimated person. So you learn more about him trying to figure out who he was, if he's able to figure that out, and who is he now. And then
Mhm.
there's a lot of political commentary in the background as well. And I think there's something interesting about one of the people in office, and they don't necessarily spell it out, but I think one of them might actually be a reanimated person. I don't know. You'll have to read it because it was very interesting.
Mary says that she likes to revisit childhood favorites like American Girl and Sweet Valley Twins. I actually am a huge rereader of things, but I wonder if when you go back to read some of those books, if you find them problematic reading them as adults. I haven't for like those particular books, but like
Yes.
I grew up on Nancy Drew, which is very problematic, now as much as I loved it back in the day.
No, there have been some that I've read and I'm like, ooh, it's like the I'm not like other girls syndrome thing, And I'm just like, it appealed to me when I was younger because that's all I knew. And now as an adult, and I'm like, we don't play that game. putting girls against girls anymore, you know? So it does kind of, I sometimes can't read some of them because of that. And at least it tells me that I've grown as a person. But yeah, sometimes it's hard. Sometimes I'm like, okay, it
Yeah.
doesn't fit with the time anymore.
Right. But for a lot of people, it is a comfort read because it's something that you read when you were that age and it brought you somewhere. Like it took
Exactly.
you away, it was an escape, whatever. So I totally get in reading books from like our childhood.
Yeah.
And I mean, I read romance, and the 80s romances are very they have not aged well, but I will still defend them to my dying day.
No, I get that too, because that's what shaped you as a reader.
Hmm.
So, I like for me, if I reread something from my childhood, it's because it shaped me as a reader. So I do still give homage to that and respect to that. But as an adult, I'm like, I don't agree with everything. It's still a good story, is how I feel. Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh, I'm
definitely.
making good time actually.
You are.
Tilly in Technicolor by Maisie Eddings. We have two characters here. One of them has ADHD, and the other one has, what does he have? Autism. There you go. So we have two different individuals that are neurodivergent, have different disabilities, and they somehow have a friendship turn something together when they go through this. Not really an internship, but they have to go through this type of schooling thing. And you can see one of them is a photographer and the other one isn't. But one thing I really liked about this one is that they didn't make each other's disabilities or neurodivergence feel like it was a problem for either of them. They just had to learn how to navigate each other. And I think that actually helped them with their relationships because they could kind of understand, oh, I do that sometimes, or I get it. So it almost was like they felt seen and heard, not for the first time, but in a way that was more understood than the surface level, like, oh, okay, this is me trying to understand you versus this is me understanding because I lived that as well. So I forget when I read this one, but I really enjoyed this one. It's a young adult romance and it was just yeah, it was really cute. I really liked this one as well.
It's kind of given me Talia Hibbert vibes, that
Hmm.
E. Brown with a neurodivergent character who it's it's not it doesn't define her. I mean, people try to make that her defining character, but she's like, nope, that's not who I am. It's just something
Exactly.
that I have. So,
Exactly.
okay, I will have to pick that one up.
Yeah, I love when it's representation, but it's not, like you said, it's not the defining characteristic. The book is not surrounded of that or like, oh, are they going to get rid of it? Or, like, how do we fix this element of them?
Mhm,
It's like, no, that's part of who they are, and that's fine. So I
mhm.
like that.
And that's what I love about the Kimberly Lemming books too, is her character, the female characters are all, plus size, whatever. And they're so happy with themselves. They're just like, I'm hot. Like,
Yep,
nobody can tell me any different. I
exactly.
just be who you are.
Exactly. I love when books do that because then it makes you feel like me, especially be like, yeah, I can be the character in my own book. I'm hot too. I love that. Okay, and then I think we actually have a middle grade book this month. A First Time for Everything by Dan Santat. It's actually a graphic novel, but also like an autobiography or memoir. And this is when Dan in middle school took a trip to Europe for the first time. So he was all by himself with classmates, and he ends up meeting a girl there. So that's her in the back, and it's just it tells the story of him trying things for the first time in Europe, but also him discovering being an artist as well, because he drew on his trip. So like in the back, he kind of showed some of the which I think I have it here. Yeah, like he showed some of the pictures that he'd done, or because he didn't have a camera, yeah, sorry. He, instead of having a camera, he drew what he saw. So I think in this story, he was saying that that's kind of what led him to become an artist. And it was really cool to see. I don't do memoirs very often, even though I have picked a few, but like one like that was really accessible to me. Not only was it in middle grade format, as in taking place in the middle grade, but it was also in a graphic novel, which made sense because he's an artist. So telling his story that way just really made a lot of sense. And this was one of my more memorable memoirs, I guess, that I've read that I really enjoyed.
I love Dan Zentat. I mean, I was a children's librarian. Is an amazing illustrator of books. I mean, he can
Yes.
do anything. So I was very excited for him to write a middle grade graphic novel because again, I feel like he can do anything. So,
Yes.
but the fact that he made it into a sort of a memoir of his own, time as and this trip, just mwah.
Yes, I loved it. I was just like, it was creative too, because I feel like it really defined even his art style then too. Like you were able to see how he grew in his artistic style. So, wow, I finished all my books kind of early.
He did. But I want to say one more thing about this one is that what's really interesting to me is that he didn't have a phone,
Yes.
and I mean, he's not that old. I think he's like in his 40s or something. So he didn't have a phone. Can you imagine going to Europe without a phone or sending your kid to Europe nowadays without a phone? But instead of like complaining about it, he just drew.
Yeah.
He wasn't like, oh, I don't have a camera, so I'm like stuck, He just
Yeah.
figured it out. And that is genius.
I love that. It's the ingenuity that we have when we are forced to figure things out that aren't like within our comfort zone. But I love that.
Hmm.
So what was the end result of the poll? Was it YA, adult, or middle grade? Did we figure that out? I'm so curious.
So I would say it's probably mostly adult. No,
Okay.
that's not true. It's a good mix of, let's see, adult, young adult, adult. Wait a minute. Wait, YA,
And then middle school.
middle school. Yes, thank you. And adults. So three adults, three YA, and two middle grade.
Yeah,
So
okay.
we have
That's a
a
really good mix.
It is. We have a good audience here. So I am going to let you all go like 3 minutes early since we are done with Leland's books. Thank you so much. I always enjoy this. I feel like I learned so much. And you and I have very similar books that we like.
Yes, I notice. I notice. I love it. Thank you again. And thanks everybody for being engaging in the chat. I really love seeing that.
That's right. And I apologize, Mary. I did not mean to say that your books were problematic. I meant like when you go back to read a book and it is problematic. So unfortunately, your name came up right before that, but I did not mean that whatsoever.
Yes.
So yeah, happy reading, everybody. I hope you have a great month. Leland, I'll see you next month.
Okay. Thanks. Bye.
Bye, everybody.